of IntellectualRadio.com, its subsidiaries, or sponsors. Encouraging, educating, and empowering you into action. This is Warriors Talk with your host, Lady ReShell.
Hello. Welcome to Warriors Talk with author and founder Lady ReShell, where we move away from awareness towards action. It is Testimonial Monday, and our topic for today is cancer support. No one fights alone. We are live on Intellectual Radio. We just heard from the Drive at 5 with Roman. Keep it locked right here on Intellectual Radio and allow us to feed your brain. On the last episode of Warriors Talk, Rizal and I talked about the effects of cancer on family life. You can go over to YouTube, type in Intellectual Radio for any episodes you may have missed. The quote of the day is, cancer is like a teeter-totter. Sometimes you got to go down to get back up. We are grateful for our sponsors. We have Gloria Dotson with Mary Kay. She's catering to all of your beauty needs from head to toe. Allstate with Paula Kelly. She is fulfilling all of your insurance needs in one place. And our newest sponsor is MyLeah Marks with affordable book editing services. And then we have Pastor Michael Richardson with the Emanuel C.O.G.I.C. You can get your spiritual food every Sunday morning at 10:15 a.m. on Facebook. Let's hear a word from our sponsor.
Greetings, I am Pastor Michael Richardson.
And I am First Lady Anastasia Richardson from the Emanuel Church of God in Christ. We're located at 3058 West Van Buren in Chicago, Illinois. We are building upon a solid foundation.
And we're inviting you to join us every Sunday morning on Facebook Live at Emanuel C.O.G.I.C at 10:15 Central Standard Time. And you can also view our videos on our YouTube channel at Emanuel C.O.G.I.C-MR. Once again, this is Pastor Michael Richardson
and First Lady Anastasia Richardson, and we are from the Emanuel Church of God in Christ. We are building upon a solid foundation.
All right, here are your trending topics for today. Colin Powell, the first Black U.S. Secretary of State, has died at the age of 84. He died from complications from COVID-19, his family reported on Facebook. Powell had multiple myeloma, a cancer of the plasma that suppresses the body immune response. Powell's leadership in several Republican administrations helped shape Americans' foreign policy in the last years of the 20th century. Those are your trending topics for today. If you are tuning in on any form of social media, please like, share the show, invite someone in on the show who you feel may benefit from this valuable information. My first guest today is a breast cancer survivor using her background as an advocate for SHARE. She currently does outreach through SHARE's ambassador program at the Ryan Center in Harlem and provides information to women about the importance of screening and prevention throughout New York City and beyond. So welcome to Warriors Talk, Lisa B. Jones. Hello, Lisa.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much, Lady. And it's an honor to be on Warriors Talk with such a wonderful panel and all that you do. I thank you for having me on.
Thank you. I appreciate you. And my second guest is a two-time breast cancer survivor, mother, caregiver, advocate. She is in charge of the Cancer Care Ministry, motivational speaker, and a volunteer. Her slogan is, I've been where you are. Let me help you move to where I am and beyond. Welcome, Karen Hall. Hello, Karen.
Hello, lady. Thank you so much for the invite. It's really an honor and a privilege to be here to be able to speak with you. And by the way, congratulations on your Queen Award.
Thank you so much. Thank you, ladies. I appreciate everything that you do. And I know that you have some wisdom that you're going to share on today. So I am excited. So our topic for today is cancer support. No one fights alone. So ladies, I'm just going to jump right in here. And I'll start with Karen first. And tell me, Karen, for you, what does support looks like?
For me, support looks like someone just being there for you. It's very difficult to explain the anxiety and all of your emotional turmoil you go through when, you first hear those words cancer. And so support is simply just having someone there to listen. Because oftentimes we cannot fix what has been shared with you, but just to listen, offer some resource advice, and just be there to support them and ask them, what do you need? And sometimes we even have to just say what we can do for you. How about if I go to your treatments with you? How about if I go to your to your exams with you, just offer the help to the person that's been diagnosed.
Awesome. Lisa, what would you tell someone who feels like they don't need support?
Raise your hand if it was me. Yes, I think, let's be clear. I think culturally, I think as women, but particularly Black and brown women, we're raised that is a trait that you honor, that you embrace. I've done it alone. I can do it alone. I was born alone. I can stay alone. Once you get a diagnosis such as cancer, or other diagnoses, or even you don't have to be diagnosed with anything, you realize at some point in your life that it's not just about what you think you need, it's something else. And you have to start curating a team. Now, whether or not you need everybody on that team at every time is a different story. But you have to acknowledge that there are certain things that you're going to need help with. It's a referral. Maybe it's somebody to listen. Maybe it's someone to do absolutely nothing but to drop off a bag of food. Sometimes you don't want to talk to anybody, and sometimes it takes someone to say, listen, they're not in a place that they can talk to me right now. Let me just do something that I think that would answer a need, or maybe a want. Sometimes all I want is a pint of Haagen-Dazs, that's it. Sometimes I don't want to speak at that moment. That's it. And that's where, as Karen mentioned, what we can do for you and help you get to that point where you can at least acknowledge what you're thinking and what you need and what you don't need.
Awesome. Now, these ladies are both survivors of cancer. And what I wanted to know, Karen, was what was your introduction to cancer?
Well, I was working hard and I was stressed out. And so my doctor put me on FMLA. And I said, okay, now I have time to actually just go and catch up on all of my tests, my mammogram. I had not had it in August like I would normally do. And so I just went. And, you get this call that says, hey, you just have an appointment at this time and this date. Okay. Me not thinking anything about it because no one in my family has cancer. So I just didn't even, that was the last thing on my mind. And when the surgeon told me, it was almost like she was like, wah. So I understood it intellectually, what she was saying, but emotionally I had shut down. And so then when she told me, so afterwards I was able to go home, crawl in my bed, do the whole ugly cry. And I had to decide if I was going to allow the cancer to take me out. And then my decision was, no, I'm going to fight this. So you need to be your own advocate, dry your eyes, put on the girl panties, and we can do this. Okay.
Lisa, what was your introduction to cancer?
My introduction had started with my mother. My mother had breast cancer when I was very young. She was diagnosed when I was about 7. She all of a sudden we just noticed that she was she worked very hard. She was sick, she was tired, and she was diagnosed at a later stage, like many of us, have been, or people we know. And she was a child education advocate. So I was used to, I'm, in New York City, so I was used to traveling with her, going out and fighting the good fight for Head Start and all these programs. And then I noticed she was so sick that she could not go to work anymore. Now we're talking in the 70s at this point. So we didn't have the same level of health care. We didn't have the same level of benefits. So it really had an impact on her. My father was in the picture. They were divorced at the time or separated. And so I had that support, and I was the baby of 4. So I noticed it. I'm a big foodie. I was a chef for many years, and she was a wonderful chef. She just could cook anything, right? And I noticed that she would cook for us and then do something different for herself, or if she could eat it all. So the impact was very young and very early. And sadly, she passed away when I was about 10, between 10 and 11. So that was imprinted on my life. So, fast forward, that one, your mother died of breast cancer. 2, that you don't really know a lot of family history because no one really recorded it. And she wasn't as forthtelling about, medical history that way, like many of our families. And 3, you get to a certain age and you start wondering, well, what's my, situation like? Mm-hmm. So at approximately 36 or so, that was 20 something years ago, I was fortunate to have a doctor that said, there's this BRCA test, this gene test that you can take. So I did it. I was BRCA2 positive. So I was always sort of vigilant about that, fortunately. And then the BRCA said you have a 95% chance of developing cancer between 50 and 75, right on cue at 51. I was diagnosed. Fortunately, it was early stage because I was, watching for it. And on my particular case, which is something I advocate for, is I was also diagnosed in the same 6-week span with lupus and fibromyalgia. So it was, everybody wanted a piece of me, so to speak. And the lupus was running the show because my symptoms, lupus is an autoimmune disease, so my symptoms weren't easily recognized. And I was sort of dismissing it as menopause, so what? You're feeling tired, you're this, that, all the same symptoms as menopause. My hair was breaking off, it was falling out. I'm like, all right, it's only hair. Then come to find out that this was lupus and early stage breast cancer and fibromyalgia rather. So that was what started my journey. Of course, the cancer piece, swung in, and that was the first thing they wanted to handle. But the lupus was kind of running the show, so to speak. So any surgeries that I had, any treatments that I had, I also had to curate a team that really could speak to each other. So that was where that initial journey came from, and where we are now.
Wow, that could be overwhelming. The one diagnosis you have to deal with, but 3 diagnoses, like altogether, that's a lot. Kenya said that's the reason why she delivered love token bags to the cancer center faithfully every 2 weeks, and they need it. Thank you, Kenya. They need it.
Absolutely.
Yes. Thank you for joining us, Lisa. I appreciate it. So, Karen, my question to you, to both of you ladies, is, did you change the way you were eating or getting exercise, like after you received the diagnosis? Like, what changed in your life?
Yes. Now, what changed in my life? First, it was that I was very small. I looked like I was a size 6, but I was really a size 9. And I was eating very unhealthy. And I had decided that in order for me to get through this surgery, because at that time my treatment plan was to have a mastectomy and reconstruction. So I felt that in order for me to come out swinging, because I had decided I was going to be an advocate and I was going to live,
Mhm.
I had to basically change my whole eating habits. I was eating all the wrong foods, all at the wrong time, because I didn't have to worry about gaining weight, And so I did. I started eating healthier. I started resting. Okay. I had made the decision that my health was my first priority, not returning back to work. Okay. And so, yes, my finances hit hard, you know, um, but when I made the decision that wanted to live, that was one of the decisions because I knew I was up under a whole lot of stress. So
Right.
it was rest, it was my nutrition, and then I had to get rid of toxic people. Okay. Uh, the ones that, have basically put you in hospice, you know, and you hadn't even had your surgery. So, I had to start, you know, getting rid of toxic people. I did get counseling from one of my ministers because I just really couldn't understand that no one in my family was diagnosed. And here I am having to deal with this. It was hard for me to grasp that. So I did get counseling. And so I started doing all of the things necessary in order for me to survive, being my own advocate, asking questions over and over and over again. They used to almost cringe when I had my appointments because I would come in there, with my book, with my questions. I have done research on my treatment plan, and start asking questions about that. So my whole lifestyle changed actually because your whole life changes.
Exactly.
What you considered your norm changed when they gave you that diagnosis. And so now you have to rediscover a new norm for you in order for you to live.
And don't feel bad if you have to cut people off, to
Yeah.
protect your sanity. Don't feel bad about that.
Yes.
Lisa, did you change anything according to eating or exercising?
Well, as you could tell by my first answer, the pint of Haagen-Dazs, the only difference was that I started as a chef. So my background was to be a chef and specializing in working with people who had diabetes, heart disease, and cancer. So I was teaching at Mount Sinai. I was a chef for about 20 something years, and I was a chef for Mayor Dinkins in New York. So my background was very solidly in food, very solidly in health. I was teaching at Mount Sinai, and I was doing health demonstrations, healthy cooking demonstrations in the 90s. So I had that part pretty down packed. I at one time was working out. I was doing a lot of stuff. So I had that mindset. However, when I decided I wanted to pursue other things besides cooking, and I was recruited by a healthcare company as a community relations coordinator. So that was for insurance, and we go to health fairs and stuff. So as far as what Karen said, which is so true, which I'm sure we're both going to talk about later, is the importance of being your own advocate. So I already have the background to make that happen. But because my diagnosis, particularly the lupus diagnosis, had gone on for so long, I couldn't exercise or walk the same way. And that was kind of the kickoff clue, because I was always moving. In New York City, I don't have a car. We walk everywhere. It's like, don't ask me about my license. What license? I've had my permit 3 times, and it's like, that's just what we do. Now, if you want me to drive, I can, but I don't know if you'll want it after we got out the ride. So that's a different story for another time. But I was always very active to say. So for that part, when I noticed that I couldn't walk and I couldn't do certain things, I kept blaming it on, premenopause, oh, you're just gaining weight. Then finding the diagnosis and then finding all of them together, as you said, that was the part that I had to sort of piece together. And once I found out, I didn't want to tell anybody because I needed to wrap my head around it. Yes. So I had to go to therapy and see, okay, am I okay? Or am I just pretending I'm okay? Get my team together. My big concern was, oh my goodness, if something happens in my house, I've been so busy being sick. My house looks like a hazmat zone. I would never let the EMT in here. So all of a sudden I went into this, I had to declutter mode, right? And so that was my motivation at that time. It needs another one now, but it's a different story because, we've been busy and in COVID. So I'll handle that. And your priorities change. I think what Karen was alluding to, what's top of the pile, is not that big of a deal. What's on the bottom sometimes swings up. So my thing was, get my team curated, my rheumatologist, my oncologist, my cardiologist, every ologist in the family, making sure I had my will, making sure my insurance was good. Anybody owed me money, they were paying up. All this stuff was going down. So that's how it was. And also, making sure that I had, I remembered, the knowledge of, eating right. I didn't have any diabetes, heart disease, or anything like that. So I was fortunate that my slate was kind of clean going into this, but that wasn't anything to rest my laurels on, because you still have to be, as Karen mentioned, you have to be even more vigilant about that. So that's where this, sort of continues.
Well, you said something about having to wrap your head around what's going on. And I always say you have to be able to accept the diagnosis and process it before you could talk to anybody else, because you have your own questions. And then if you tell somebody, they're going to have a million questions, like what stage are you at? What treatment are you taking? You just oh, you should do this, you should do that, before you even had a chance to sit down and say, okay, Lord, what am I going to do? What exactly is this that I'm dealing with? So you have to accept it and process it in your mind and then take action on it.
Absolutely. And that's exactly what I have to do it. I literally I told my sister, I told a few, one or two people. And again, I was in community relations. So I know people, I really do. But I was a matter of, and I have a great support team. However, before I opened my mouth up, to, for example, I've all across the board, my every faith has their way of coping. I'm a 35-year Buddhist practitioner. So, we all have our temples and our churches and our gatherings. And they saw me walk in with a rollator and a cane. And they were like, what's going on? What's going on? I'm like, I'm just trying to find out. Once I figure it out, I'll figure it out. Thank you so much. Right. And you're right about in terms of finances and all these things you have to factor in, right? So, I'm not Oprah's little sister, so it hit hard, right? It hit really hard. And you have to look at resources and where you're pulling in. And until I could wrap myself around it, I wasn't going to say anything, to anybody. And you're right, the toxic folks had to go. And sometimes they handed you the scissors, It was just the diagnosis that you needed. You had the cancer diagnosis, and you also got that diagnosis that they needed to go.
And pity look that they give you when they say, "Are you okay?" Yes. Like you're so timid. It's like, oh my goodness. Kenya says when you're going through chemo, you definitely have to have a support team, and your finances have to be intact.
That's right.
It has to be intact. Karen, talk about, because some people are underinsured, some people don't have insurance when they're going through, so some people may not even go and get testing because they okay, it's not going to be covered, and I don't want to come out of my pocket trying to do this. What would be some advice you would give in a lady or individual to still find these resources to go and get this done?
So my advice is this. When I say be your own advocate, it's important for you to be your own advocate. Do not take a no. Okay? No is not in your vocabulary when we talk about your health. So if you do not have insurance, there are many, many, many avenues for you to tap into. One of the things that I say, don't let your pride defeat your purpose. Okay? Your purpose is to ensure that you get tested, you get diagnosed. The earlier your diagnosis, the better your survival rate is. So if you don't know, ask. I know when at the second time I got diagnosed, I had to go through the chemo, radiation, surgery, and so on and so forth. And I was still quote unquote employed, and and I still had insurance. However, okay, my insurance was going to run out. It ran out in the midst of me going through treatment. And I'm like, oh my God, what am I going to do? Another friend of mine that was in treatment gave me the advice. She says, oh, don't worry about that. You just go down and you go to this office. It's called IBCCP, and you talk to, this person, and you will be able to get a medical card because you have lost your private insurance in the middle of your treatment. So it didn't matter how much money you had because,
right.
most of the time the medical card is, you have to be practically in the street in order to qualify for it. But that particular program is for breast and cervix cancer, and that's what it's called, Illinois Breast and Cervix Cancer. And I was able to get a medical card and complete my treatment, so my treatment did not have to stop. And it all came about just talking to people about it, because you'd be surprised what type of support you can get when you just start opening up and say, I need help. And Lisa had mentioned that earlier, and that, we're so prideful. We big, strong Black women that we can conquer the world and we don't need nobody to help us do anything. I had to get over that, okay? Because I was one of those ladies. I had to get over that and say, yes, I need some help. Yes, I need support. The first time I looked at those, I went to a support group, and I'm looking at these ladies like, I ain't like them. Okay, I still got my eyebrows, I still got my hair. I don't look like them.
Right.
Okay, Lord and behold, it kicked me back 8 years later. Okay, and now I look like them. So now I had to go find women to say, how do you keep your eyebrows?
Yeah.
What do you do? So it's very important that you reach out and you just keep asking questions. You keep searching for the support and resource that you need. And Lord and behold, somebody is going to give you what you need in order for you to do it.
I totally agree. When I got my diagnosis, I was asking so many questions. I would reach out to survivors who were like 10, 17, 25 years out. And I'm like talking to them about, okay, what are you doing? What happened? How'd you get through it? Because I wanted to know, and I wanted that glimmer of hope to say, okay, if they can make it, then I can make it. So I totally agree with you. Asking questions, researching is going to be your best friend, because it's going to give you that knowledge on how to take action with your own life. And because it's your life, and we're talking about advocating for yourself, and what person better to do that than you? So Lisa, speak on it.
When I first got diagnosed, the nurse told me, the oncology nurse, it's your body, it's your life. It's not the oncologist's life.
That's right.
So you keep asking questions until you are comfortable with making a decision for your life. And so I had to learn, because, sometimes we don't want to challenge, right? They're like, who are you? I'm the one that got the degree on the wall. How you going to challenge me? But it's your life.
That's right.
And when I had chemo, the one thing that I, the first time it was easy, but the second time I really had to put my pride aside.
Absolutely.
Medical card? Are you kidding? Now, a lot of those things we just have to decide, that it's better for me.
Right.
And the toxic people and all of that. It's better for me to do it myself, to be my own advocate. So, lady, thank you so much for having me on this, because this is a really awesome dialogue that a lot of females and women need to hear. If you feel something, if you even think if you think you feel something, for me, nothing was there. Okay, nothing was there. I just did, I just went to go get a mammogram because I was at the age where I needed to get it. So, yeah.
Why is it important, Lisa, to see people that look like you when you're going through?
Ooh.
Tell it. Right. When you walk into a place, and I know I can say this, we've all had some experience where we were across the table from somebody somewhere, and they were talking to you in sort of like this, well, maybe, and they didn't really know your life story, or, and that's okay. We don't walk in, giving them, the memo first and then they meet us. But when I talk to you about hair, if you don't care about it, fine. But if you care all about it all day, this is a big deal. And it's not wash and wear all the time, right? Now, for me, lupus did more damage. That aspect of lupus did a lot of damage to my hair. But I was the type, I always had this like kind of long, wild, thick hair. And I noticed the difference. And when I finally noticed the difference, it took me aback. Didn't mean I was doing my hair all the time. I was like the worst customer in the salon. It's like, is it clean? Is it washed and set? Okay, great. Because I always felt like one of those rotating ducks in Chinatown, because you have to put it on and it's like so much heat, all this stuff. But I like clean hair and I liked it, looking good, however it was going to be. I like my hats. I like this. I like that. So that change like sort of shook me. So the first event that I went after my surgery, now bear in mind where I was fortunate, it was because I found out early, I had an early diagnosis because again, I have the BRCA tube. So it was no matter how much positive thinking, which I'm abundant in, how much chanting, how much prayers, it was pretty high probability I was going to get this, right?
Yep.
So not kid yourself, because we have to deal with the reality of things. You can be as hopeful and as optimistic as you can, and I highly encourage that. But when you see it on the paper, it's kind of like just something you need to know. So by the time it hit, and I was diagnosed, I was early stage. Again, the lupus was leading. So, or sort of running the show, so to speak. So I didn't have to have chemotherapy nor radiation, although they wanted me to. But because the cancer was early stage and on my left side, I had surgery. My hematologist and radiologist at the time said that he really didn't feel right. And it was a consensus that in order for me, it wouldn't have been a good idea with the lupus running wild for me to have chemo and radiation and still be so early stage. So again, that's when being your own advocate came in. And I said to anybody else who didn't agree in the team, it's like, thank you so much, but I'm a minimalist, okay? We don't have to go getting a radical mastectomy. We don't have to go doing anything. I have the gene. I don't have a death sentence. Right. Okay. You can always come back and take some more. And while you're there, why don't you go a little lower down and you can take some off, the hips and butt and all those thighs. Go ahead. You want to start cutting and doing stuff. We can talk about this later, but let's go minimal and we wait and we see. I am not looking to put in anything that I do not absolutely need to. And I deliberately curate and pick my doctors in terms of surgeons and non-surgeons. The majority of my doctors are surgeons at this time. Why? Because you have to really come and convince me. If we're going to get surgery on some way, or we're going to have chemo, or we're going to add another medication. Because I can get all the good stuff with all the autoimmune diseases that I have. I could get any pain medicine I want, and then some. I'm a minimalist. I want to take the very least for the very most effectiveness. Because if we keep popping pills, and anytime a doctor says you should need this, then you have a pill to contradict this, to contradict that, that's when our bodies decide, my personal feeling, our bodies decide is like, listen, if you can't make up your mind, I'm not going to help you. Right. So we always have to monitor that. And as Karen said, we have to have these conversations with our doctors, and intervene and say, listen, I don't really want to take that. Give me a reason why that would be better. Yes. Like I have rheumatoid factors. I have rheumatoid arthritis as well. And autoimmune diseases tend to group together. It's like they see one and then their broke cousin comes in and tries to get you too, right? So by the time that happens, you can have 3 or 4 autoimmune diseases, but let's say one prescription might be able to take care of all of them. Or the fact that I add acupuncture whenever I can helps mitigate a lot of the pain. So, and also anything else in terms of symptomatics or symptoms, I'm looking at what else can I do? Does that mean you really try to get up and walk? I add aqua therapy. I add whatever I can that will eliminate the need for any conversation about another pill. So I keep a tight ship on that.
Can I mention like a couple of websites and organizations that will help you? American Cancer Society, if you just don't even know what you need to ask,
absolutely,
call them, because they have a resource bank that's wonderful, and they will be able to send you the right information. Don't get so crazy on this internet, because you will basically slit your wrists.
Absolutely.
Okay,
Yes.
so make sure you are going to the legitimate websites, such as American Cancer Society. Type in cancer.gov, right, on your search engine, or cancersymptoms.gov. Put a .gov behind it. Those are the legitimate websites that give you the information. It won't be Susie's Healthcare Ministry ain't gonna come up, right? But that's important for you to be able to understand where you need to get the information. American Cancer Society, I am a volunteer for them, and I talk with newly diagnosed women. And I think it's very important, as Lisa was saying, to communicate with someone like you. I understand the importance of losing hair. I was wearing a wig before I lost my hair, but it was just the idea of losing yet another thing. Okay.
Absolutely.
Have I, in my support, have I taken off my wig and shown the lady? Yes, I have. I will do whatever it takes to say, hey, be a fighter.
Yeah.
Just fight. It's important for you to fight. National Cancer Institute is another one that you can get good information from. Also, think about your caregiver. If you need a caregiver, right, get your caregiver to support you. It's okay to leave the dishes. Dishes will be all right the next day. Your body is more important. Think about your body. Let your body dictate how you are going to move. If the body says not today, lay it down. Unless your body is going to lay you down. So, it's important for you to think about that.
Those are definitely my websites that I always go to when I want to get accurate information. Yeah. So I totally agree with you on that. If you are just tuning in, this is Warriors Talk, and we are live on Intellectual Radio. It's Testimonial Monday, and I have cancer survivors sharing their testimony and their wisdom. I have Lisa B. Jones and Karen Hall, and we're talking about cancer support, no one fights alone. Now, these ladies are commenting, so I want to make sure I read their comments because I appreciate them coming in. Sandra says she appreciates the platform, and Lisa Adams said she learned to be humble and allow her loved ones to help. You have to allow people to help you. Kendra said, I really truly feel that bringing awareness is an everyday topic. It truly is, and I don't care if people get mad that I talk about it all the time. Brenda says, blessings to you all. Okay, they will. Sandra says, Lisa and Karen, your honesty and your truth is healing. It heals. It heals. Your testimony heals people. Lisa said, I agree. Stop trying to give me too much medicine. And they will. I call it the Band-Aid effect. They, instead of trying to get to the root cause of the problem, they put a Band-Aid on it, and you're never going to figure out what's wrong because you're putting a Band-Aid on it.
Absolutely.
Yes. So go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I was just saying also to add to the websites in terms of CDC, .gov. Of course, we'll talk about our organizations that I work with, sharecancersupport.org. And also, there's differences in the websites. For example, some websites will say a mammogram should start at 50, right? And the other website said 40. Now, I was dealing with a doctor who I was doing, I create sites in my, in New York City where myself as an ambassador, another ambassador can go and give out information and talk and engage, because particularly in our community, outreach is important. And I also sit on a van, a mammography van with an organization called Project Renewal. And they do a multitude of services in New York City. But that's through the Ryan Center. They have a collaboration, which is so important. The Ryan Center, which is a federally funded FQ something, and I forgot the acronym, of course, but it's a federally funded health center. And so they have a collaboration with an organization called Project Renewal, who has a mobile mammography van. So once a month, the Ryan Center hosts the mammography van. So I also work with them independently, the Project Renewal, so they go to other sites besides the Ryan site. But particularly when they're at the Ryan site, I go there and I sit on the mammography van. Why? Because then you have scan anxiety. Just the thought of getting a mammogram is enough to really bring on a lot of anxiety. We've been there, the frustrations of this. So I get on there and I have my share information, and I'm like, hey, my name is Lisa. Have a seat. Thank you so much for coming, right? And I treat it like it's my house, right? Hand them a pen, give them a card. When you like parting gifts, thanks for coming. Whatever goodies, that, we have, I give them a little packet. And I said, listen, I'm a survivor. Okay. So I understand that it's scary. I've been through many, many, many mammographies. Some it's their first one, some it's their 40th one, whatever the case is, we know the anxiety of it. So I say, if you have any questions, please let me know. Sometimes in certain cases, I give them my personal number, and all cases, they have the share number. But I tell them that no matter what happens in there, that we and other resources can help you. If share can't help you, we can guide you to someplace else. If you have a question on the spot, I'm right here. I'm there from like 10 to 4 whenever they're there. And I just sit on the van, or I sit with them right before they get on the van or after the van, right? So that helps in the sense of I've seen people I've been there 3 or 4 years. I've seen them come every year. Now I'd like to think it's like my witty ways and my this and the that, but it's the convenience of having the van right there in their neighborhood. And there's no excuse because they don't need insurance to do it. If you have insurance, they'll take it.
Right.
Of course they will, right? Because, why not get reimbursed for the service? But it's telling the women specifically that it's not a death sentence. If anything happens, we know most is not, but those times where it is, and that's if they pick it up on the mammogram. So the differences in some of the organizations is that, one of the doctors was like, no, I'm not going to change it to 50. It's too many false reports if they have a mammogram below 50. I'm like, have you ever spoken to a 40-year-old who just got a diagnosis?
Right.
Because you're over there saying it has to be 50. I'm like, no, that doesn't happen. Or how about younger? So what she did is she just started looking at all the sites. Now she's a medical doctor, and we agreed that she would drop it to 40 with the referral from her doctor. Or if you have, in my case, had a family history of, because I had my first biopsy at 22, and they gave me all kinds of problems until one doctor said, "Did you hear that her mother died at 43?
May I mention this? I know, we talk about hurry up and make sure that you get your mammogram. For the women that's in the Chicagoland area, University of Chicago is offering free mammograms and diagnostic testing for non-insured individuals. So if you go to my Facebook page, and I will definitely post it on my website, that you can get the information. Another thing that I wanted to share is that even though I am X amount, 10 plus years from my first diagnosis, you still get that anxiety.
Exactly.
That anxiety never goes away. I had to get a procedure done for my allergy, and I had to go to the infusion center. And oh my God, I just got overwhelmed because it was the same procedure, right? They have to take your blood, they have to put the IV in, I have to wait until the reading of your blood come back, and then the medicine was intravenously, administered. That gives you the same as if you were in chemo. But the one thing I have to mention is always say, whatever it is, thank God they caught it early. So now what's the plan? So that's what gets me out of the anxiety of having to go for any type of test or anything like that. I just wanted to do a quick shout out to my president, Sandra. I see she was on the line and she made a comment. But yes, this is critical that we get the resources that we need and also reach for help. Support is very important.
Can you talk about the cancer support team?
Yes, absolutely. Cancer Support Team is an organization where I'm the founder, where we empower individuals impacted by cancer. I host a support group on the first Wednesday of the month is for cancer survivors. The third Wednesday on the month is for cancer caregivers, cancer patients. I also offer free wigs to cancer patients and women living with alopecia. I provide free wigs. I provide care bags. Just recently, I have gifted the Ingalls Hospital with care bags.
That's wonderful.
One of the elements that I have adopted, I call it Purses for a Purpose. And what this is we offer for sale free purses that are new and gently used to help support my other free programs. We do one-on-one support. So if you're not comfortable in a group setting, you can do the one-on-one virtual support right now. And so this is how we give back to our community. Just recently, I'm part of a collaboration with Equal Hope and two other breast cancer organizations where we're gifting 100 glamour bags to 100 survivors this month as breast cancer awareness. And just this past Saturday, I had an awesome breast cancer awareness event that was fantastic. So, that's our way of giving back. That's our way of continuing to educate our community, do community outreach so that we can share our information with our community.
Did you want to give the website?
Yes, the website is cancersupportteam.net. That's cancersupportteam.net. We are on Facebook, we are on Instagram, we are on LinkedIn, and we are on Twitter. And so you can look us up, Cancer Support Team, Inc. And Karen Hall, I'm the founder and CEO, and we look forward to serving you. We look forward to supporting you through whatever, wherever you are in your journey. And I call it a journey. It's not a destination, it's a journey.
Love it. Lisa, did we get all of the information about the ambassador program? Did you give the website or how they can get connected?
To
Lisa.
Oh,
Lisa.
yes.
I'm
hi.
sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, in terms of, I work a lot with Share, of course, and Share, we are nationwide. We have a broad scope in terms of New York, but we do nationwide support. One of the things that I do is I develop, sites, meaning areas or a location where, as I said earlier, myself or another ambassador can go to. Another thing in terms of advocacy is I also do what they call the Department of Defense consumer reviews. So that is the Department of Defense has a congressionally medical research fund, because anything that happens in the military, they also consider it as happening to the community at wide. So some of my other and our other amazing advocates are people like Sheila, Marie McLeod, Terlisa Shepard, Jersey Baker. You've heard some of these names, and charge it on my heart, not my head, in terms of the ones I forget. But these are women who are metastatic breast cancer survivors, and they do amazing, amazing work. Valencia, just so many. Tia in, I believe she's in Atlanta, and so many others. So we've all, or many of us, have done this type of consumer review work, where we review the proposals that are being considered for possible clinical trials. And we do it as a part of, and I can give you the information as well. And we do it as a part of being survivors that speak to these doctors, these researchers and organizations about, they may think this particular treatment or this newfound experiment could or be the next great cancer cure, but we speak to it or write about it in terms of, as a survivor, what it would mean. Could this be based on scientific data, something that's feasible in our realm as being survivors? So I do that. It's very interesting work. It's very intense, and I'm a mentor in that program, as I bring in other people, or they tell me which ones to mentor. So I'm very happy about that. So as far as the ambassador program, you can, of course, get in touch with me. My email is lisafoodbites, lisafoodbytes@gmail.com. You can also find me on Facebook, Lisa B. Jones. So an ambassador is someone who has survived cancer at Share generally, or sometimes there are some that have been caretakers or who have a particular interest in, because you're not going to turn away someone with the will or experience, right? So if you contact me, I can tell you more about that. We're also doing more projects in terms of we're going into food pantries and giving out information, because in this pandemic, as Karen said earlier, the new normal doesn't just start at home or with your condition. The whole world is in a new normal. I recently did an article. I was interviewed for an article by Siemens Healthcare, which is an international. So it was myself, a woman from India, and a woman, I believe, from Australia, all being survivors, right? So in a world of pandemic, what happened? What did we see? We saw people delaying their care. Their first reports were there's less diagnosis coming out, less data. Therefore, people aren't getting cancer. yes, people were still getting cancer. They just weren't going to be seen about it because everything was shut down. So now we're dealing with some of that now in different areas, which I'm sure you see. So